Good morning. How you guys doing? All right. I hear you guys are a pretty awesome group to talk to because you're interactive and you're fun and you won't boo me or anything like that. Except for that little kid over there. So, as Kate said, I've been at the church for over 10 years, and I haven't always been a high school pastor. In fact, I haven't been a high school pastor for not even a year yet. Before that, I worked with the junior high ministry. So if you have any junior high kids, I might know them. And before that, yeah? Oh, yes, hey. Yes. And before that, for 10 years, I was in and out of different ministries, but primarily working with facilities. So I would be in here every morning, setting up chairs for you guys, and then eating all your food. So that was my Tuesday morning for the most of my career here at North Coast Church. When I started working here, 11 years ago, it was right around the time that I started dating my now wife. So I do have some pictures of her, and her name's Courtney, and I believe she just came in through the back. You guys don't have to look for her, but you can see her up here. So this is us getting married here, 5 years ago? This is us kissing, or she's kissing me. This is New Zealand. We went to New Zealand a couple years ago. And we went quadding, which was really fun. And then this is Colorado. We're just we're very quirky. We have some weird things that we do and we like to do, but that's us. That's the kind of couple we are. But for me, it didn't start with her, obviously. That was 10 years ago. I have parents. It started with them. And he's like, okay, duh. So I do have some pictures of my parents. Okay, don't go too fast on these. These are my parents before they had kids. They were hippies. I didn't know that until like a year ago. My mom was a hippie. Look at that. She played like the guitar and everything. You guys like hippies. They're happy. They're happy, right? Okay, so next picture. This is them like a couple weeks ago. Okay, they're I don't know how old they are. I wouldn't even tell you if I knew. They're happy there too. They're drinking mimosas. They're having a good time. They don't have kids in that picture either. The kids are out of the house. Take a look at this next picture. Okay, this is this is us living in Hawaii. This is my family, my parents, and 4 siblings, or 3 siblings, including myself. So there's 4 of us. See, we're happy. I'm trying to smile. My mom doesn't look too happy. My dad's trying to force his smile. And I show this picture not because we were an unhappy family. We were a happy family. We did love each other. But kids can change everything. And for my parents, it was a tough time in their life. In fact, they tell me that if I was born first, I was that kid. If I was born first, that they wouldn't have had any more kids. And they say it like very seriously. I was insane. I was a crazy kid. In fact, fast forward from that was in Hawaii. We lived in Hawaii, and then we moved to Seattle, and eventually moved to Colorado, and that's where I went to high school and where my parents kind of settled for the most part. They still live in Colorado. And there was a night, I was, I believe, a junior in high school. So fast forward like 17 years. I was a junior in high school, and my mom was at home. It was late. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And she was at home, and I don't know why she was up. Now I know why, looking back. But she was up, and she was just doing all kinds of stuff, getting things ready. Come to find out, she was up getting ready. My dad was on a business trip. She was packing and doing things to make the house ready and to get herself ready and my dad's stuff ready for their anniversary the next day. And I came home late all the time. I'm a junior in high school. I'm like, I can do whatever I want. I got a car. But I came home also a lot high. I smoked a lot of weed when I was in high school. And it's Colorado, okay? Everyone does that there. And I wasn't a pastor then, okay? I wasn't a Christian then. And this particular night, I was out smoking weed with my friends, and I came home about 11 o'clock. And I walk into the house, and normally the lights are off, and I just walk into my room, and I'm like, yes, I'm safe. I did it again. And my mom was up, the lights were on, and she was scrambling around the house, and it's 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, crap. And I have a hat on, so I pull my hat super low so she can't see my eyes. I'm like, hey, Mom, and just keep walking. Now, let me give you guys a little, I don't want to embarrass my mom. She's not here. But she's a great mom. But this story, what I'm about to tell you guys, this only happened once. She rarely tipped on her scales, okay? But this time she did, and it was crazy. It was insane. She was crazy. And at least in my eyes, but I was also a little high, okay? So I come in, and I'm super quiet. She says, hey, son. She stops everything. Hey, Shay, what's up? I'm like, nothing, Mom. Love you. Good night. And I'm walking to my room, She's like, hey, stop for a sec. Come here. She knows something's up. Mother's intuition gets you every time. She's like, hey, come here for a sec. I'm like, oh, no. Yeah, what do you want? Like, head low, hat down. Look at me. Take your hat off. I kind of lift it a little bit. What? Like, what do you want? She's like, take your hat off. Take my hat off. My eyes are open. She sees the bloodshot eyes. She knows what that means. And it takes her 2 seconds just staring at me. And something in her mind, all of the pressure building up, I don't know what was going on. I know my parents, they're at this time right now, things were a little rocky, not perfect in their relationship. She's getting ready to try and make a great day for the next day, anniversary, thinking she can leave her kids at home because she can trust them. And everything in her mind just, And she flipped out. And this is literally what she did. I stood there, and in a matter of seconds, she went, "Ah! I hate you!" And I'm like, what? And I'm like, is this an illusion? Like, am I high? Like, what's going on? Like, oh my gosh! And she walks into the kitchen, and she grabs a knife. She's like, I can't believe you would do this to me! And I'm like, I don't know what I did! And I have never been that scared in my life. And I ran down the stairs. I ran into my room, and I got on my bed, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And her room is above my room. That's where my dad and my mom slept, is above my room. And I hear her stomping around. Okay, and she stomps into her room, and she knows I am below her, and I'm sure I picture her with the knife in her hand, and I hear her, and she goes like this, I hate you! And I'm like, I've never done this in my life. I get on my phone, and I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, I don't know what to do right now. I think Mom's gonna kill me. And I'm like, listen, and I put the phone out, and he hears the screaming, and I get back on the phone. He's like, what's going on? Like, what happened? I'm like, Mom has a knife. I think she's gonna kill me. And he says, well, what'd you do? What happened? I said, I came home high. And he very calmly says, okay, I'll deal with you later. Your mom is not gonna kill you. Just stay in your room. And he goes, you might wanna lock the door. And he hangs up. I hang up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I go and lock the door, and I'm like, dude, am I just like super high right now? Like, what is going on? And I went to sleep eventually that night, but I don't think my mom did. Because eventually the irate screaming and all of that, because she sleeps above me, I eventually heard tears and just sobbing and crying. And I realized something that night, something that now that I think about it, now that I'm an adult, and even when I pastor your kids and I see the moms walk in and hand their kids over, something I realized about my mom is that she felt like she had to carry the weight of everything. She felt like for her as a woman, it was all up to her to carry the load, to do everything, and for her there was no time to rest. And I think a lot of the women in here, I think all of you guys in here can understand that and have understood that at one point in your life, that it's all up to you, that everything comes down to what's on your shoulders, and you feel like you have no rest. For a lot of you, it starts with, even if you're single, it starts with your performance in the workplace. You have to perform at even a higher level because you're competing against men in a men's world. And there's something about that where you think, this is all me. I've got to do this on my own. And I've got to prove something. It's the finding a man. You got to do it on your own. And by the way, I don't know if anyone in here thinks that. I've got to find a man, find the right man, if there's any single ladies in here. But take a second to think about that. Who is really trying to find that man? God is finding that man for you. You just got to be patient. I know you've heard that. I just wanted to give a tidbit there. Part of this feeling like you have to do it all is taking care of family. In fact, it goes beyond that, and sometimes it's just worrying about taking care of your family and what that means, and that you have to do it all by yourself. And even worse, when you realize that you can't do it all on your own, if you ever realize that, there's always someone who seems to be able to pull it off, and you start to feel guilty for not trying hard enough. You look at Facebook and you see the pictures of the women that post all the nice pictures, like, look at our family, we're so happy, we're perfect. And you're like, how do they do it? I don't have any more that I can give. I have no more time. If I tried any harder, I would blow up. And they seem to pull it off. And the truth is they're not. They just pretend. Okay, not every, there might be one or two women out there in the world, just one or two, that have it all together. But for the most part, they're just they just want you to think that. It's a comparison game, and I know you guys do it all the time. My wife does it all the time, and constantly we have to talk, and I go, don't compare. You have what you need. Who cares what they have? Who cares if their family looks like it's put together? You don't see what happens behind closed doors. And it's that comparison game. And so I had to ask, at least for me, where does this come from? Where does this come from for women feeling like they have to do it all on their own? And it comes from more than two places, but the two things that I came up with, one, because I'm a guy, and I'm married, and I know how I can be, and I know that I am not always the most helpful. I know that sometimes I try to be helpful, and I'll try and make the bed, but when I make the bed, it's not made right, so my wife has to come in and make the bed again. She's like, you didn't do it right. And I'm like, what do you mean? I put the blanket on, I put the pillows on, but the pillows are upside down and all this stuff. I'm like, I try, and sometimes men are just stupid. We're dumb. We try, though. I will say maybe not all men, but I try. And I have a video I want you guys to watch. This is more for some perspective. It helped me when I watched it. I'm like, oh yeah, women do have it hard because guys aren't always helpful. Maybe some of you women growing up just had a dad that wasn't the most helpful. Maybe not a bad dad, but just wasn't the most helpful. Maybe your husband, he tries, but he's not the most helpful. And so you actually literally feel like I have to do everything on my own in this household. And so the very first video I ever posted on Facebook, it was, I got a new camera. And so what you're about to see, it was me just being funny. So I say some things in there that, taken out of context, you'd be like, why is he a pastor? It's just me being funny, but you can see the difference. You can see what happens. This is like a normal life from my wife and I, what she usually does, and then what I'm doing while she's trying to hold things together. So take a look at the video. That's all we ever do is clean and fold laundry and clean. It just never ends. It's a never-ending cycle. Whoa. How do I look at myself in this, I guess? Life is all about cleaning. Clean this, clean that, organize, go to work, come home, don't have kids, don't do anything, just play video games. I figured out the secret to life. It's video games and vodka.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Being married's fun too. But don't forget the video games and vodka. Nothing. Clean. Put the clothes away. Put them in there. Do the dishes. Pay the bills. Do some more dishes. Pay some more bills. Clean up Mikey hair. Feed the cat. Mikey, you freaking have it easy, you little punk. Oh, look at me, sitting on the couch. Oh, I have no worries in life. So that's one reason why women might feel like they have to do it all on their own. It's because of the men in their life. And that is very true. And I'm sorry that we do that to you. So I guess on behalf of most men, hey, we try. We're trying. Maybe not all of us. But there is another thing that causes women to feel like they have to do it all on their own, and that even in that, there's no time for rest. And it's actually this. And you guys might be like, what? Get this guy off the stage. The Bible, if not read in the right context or perspective, can make you guys feel like you're inadequate, like you don't match up, like you don't have it together, and that this is just telling you how wrong you are or how less of a woman you are in comparison to who you should be. And part of that comes from, I asked my wife this, I said, what makes you feel like you don't have it all together, or that you have to have it all together, and they don't have time for rest? And she said, Proverbs 31. And I'm like, okay, and I laughed, because I laughed like that, but you guys are laughing because you get it. For me, I laughed, and I was like, isn't that supposed to be good? That's the women's verse. And she's like, no, and so we read it together. So I know we have it. You can put it up on the screen, or if you have your Bible with you. But Proverbs 31:10 is, it's the wife of noble character. It's the passage in the Bible that speaks to women that says, this is, I guess in a way, this is who you should be. This is how you should be. And I started reading this, and my wife and I was blown away. And I'm like, no wonder why women feel like they have to have it all together. The Bible is telling them they have to have it all together. So I'm just going to start reading, and then I'll kind of explain what I mean. So first off, starts at verse 10. A wife of noble character, who can find? She's worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. This woman's incredible. She gets up while it is still dark. She gets up while it is still dark. She provides for her family and portions for her servant girls. So even in verse 15, it says she doesn't sleep. So just keep that in mind. If you guys sleep, you suck. Verse 16, she considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you suck too, because apparently you're supposed to have a job and have your own earnings, okay? I'm kidding, you don't suck. I'm just making fun. Verse 18, we can skip one. Verse 18, she sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. Again, she's financially in charge. She takes care of the finances in the house, and again, she doesn't go to sleep. Her light never goes out, okay? So don't sleep. Skip down a couple more. Verse 20, she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. If you haven't served in a home and shelter in the last week, you suck. Verse 25, she's clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. In the midst of all of this, she laughs at it. Bring on more. I got this. I got huge arms and huge shoulders. Just pile it on. Well, if you know this woman, let me know, okay? I want to find her. Verse 27, I'm kidding. My wife's in here. I love you. I've already found her. Verse 27, she watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. If you ever take time to rest and be idle, you suck. Now, it's funny. I'm making fun of it. However, this is the Bible, so hopefully God does not strike me down right now. Because I think that what we do is we read this and we don't understand what is happening, what's being said here. Should we strive for this? Should you as women strive for this? Yes. You should strive to be the Proverbs 31 woman. That is a great thing to do in your life, to try and become a better woman, to do all the stuff that's mentioned here. But here, for one thing, this is probably the most important thing, context is everything. Do you realize who wrote this? A man wrote this. A man wrote this, and this is how I picture it. He wrote it, and it'd be like when I was a teenager, I had, a picture on my wall, and it was a swimsuit model, okay? And I was a teenager, all right? I'm not saying your kids have that, but I had a picture on my wall, a swimsuit model, and I'm like, that's the ideal woman. And I'm never gonna marry that woman, but that's what I thought, I could have that someday. And I think this is what he's doing. He's saying, he even says it at the beginning, a wife of noble character, who can find? This is what it's like this ideal woman. A woman who would have everything would look like this, but it's impossible. See, what the Bible does sometimes, it actually does want to make you feel inadequate. And there's a reason for it. See, Jesus does it too when he speaks a Sermon on the Mount. And he goes through all of these things. You've heard it said, don't commit adultery. Well, I'm telling you, even if you lust in your mind, you've sinned. And he's setting the bar so stinking high. And it's not to show you how much you suck. It's because he's trying to point to something even greater. In fact, in Matthew 5:48, he says this, right in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, he says, Jesus, he says this, be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. And I'm sure everyone listening was blown away. Like, be perfect? Are you kidding me? And I think the same thing has happened in this Proverbs 31, what women think, that you have to be perfect. And the reality is that Jesus is not saying you have to be perfect. He wants you to feel inadequate so that you can tell yourself and realize that I need Jesus because I can't be perfect. I can't do everything on my own. I need Jesus. And when you find Jesus, when you really reach out and say, that is what I need, I don't need perfection. If I want perfection, I just need the blood of Christ in me. And if you really reach for that, you find this, which is so contradictory to what you guys have thought as women. But it's this, is that when you find Jesus, in him, you will find rest. You will find rest in Jesus. He says his burden is light and his yoke is easy. The reality is that you can't do it alone. You must find rest. But first, for some women in here who go, I get this. I got this a long time ago, and I'm kind of past this. The question would be, how do you recognize that you need rest? So I actually interviewed, I guess you could say, I surveyed 100 women. Not 100 women. It was 10. But I surveyed, and then some of them were in college, and some of them were empty nesters and whatnot. But I surveyed some women because I'm not a woman. I'm like, yeah, I have no clue. I have no clue what goes through your guys' heads. I try, again. I have a wife, so I can get it sometimes. But I'm like, no, I don't know what to even speak to you guys. They came up with this sermon, just so you know. A bunch of women did. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. And so I asked them, how do you recognize that you need rest? And this is the top 5 answers, surveyed 100 people. When your perspective narrows, they say that's how you know that you need rest. When you start to just focus in on only what is important to you, when you start to be selfish, when your perspective narrows. And to go along with that, they say when you get short-tempered, when you start to just have a shorter fuse, you should recognize that you need some rest. Or when you start to make excuses for not doing things. You start to make excuses for your friends, and when they invite you places, you can just tell them, look, I'm busy. You start to make excuses for everything that maybe you really should be doing. There's an excuse for all of it. Number 4 and 5, these are the ones that I think are really powerful. They say when your family is falling behind. When your family is falling behind, that's a factor in knowing that you need rest. And then the 5th one, if you're at odds with people in your life, with your husband, your boyfriend, your friends, the people in life, if you're at odds with them, and here's what's so interesting to me, is that most people, not just women, that start to feel that pressure that things aren't all together, that you're not doing it perfectly, don't think, well, I need to take a step back and just let it go. Think, I got to work harder and start to fix this and maintain it. For a guy, that's how I think. I got to fix this. For you women, you just start to think, I just got to take on more. I've got to do more, and I don't have time for rest now. My family's falling apart. I need to get more involved. I need to get more involved with my kids. My husband and I, we need a date or something like that. And you start to think more and more, and the reality is that you need rest. And I know this now. We're going to talk about what it means, like how to find rest. But I know this now because what I didn't say at the beginning, I have a wife, but I also have 2 kids. One is a month old. So I do have some pictures of my kids. This is my daughter. Her name's Orion. So this is Orion. She was easy. 1 kid, piece of cake, okay, in comparison at least. So that's 1 kid. I have another picture. That's Orion and Titus, my son right there at Bates Nut Farm. And she looks nice in there, but as soon as we had the 2nd kid, she turned into a jerk. Like she loves and hates her little brother, and both of them are dangerous for him. Okay, she doesn't know, and she's just processing this. She's trying to figure it out. But we have 2 kids now, and I think we have one more picture of my wife and the 2 kids. So it's kind of a bad picture, but yeah, that's my daughter Orion and Titus, and my wife. And I've always understood the necessity of rest. Sleep is important, rest is important. I'm talking at this point physical rest. And I got the second kid. We had the second kid. And you know how you understand something? You're like, yeah, I get it. But then when you go through it, you're like, oh, I get it. I understand it now. What everyone else was saying, I'm like, yeah, thanks for the advice. Thanks for the wisdom. I know. But then you walk through it and you're like, oh, I know. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, like 2 hours of sleep at night. And I started to realize something very quickly. That I can, even as a man, I can muster up the energy, I can go through tough things in life. And I can be a man and stand tall and be strong if I can recuperate afterwards. And we would go through these very difficult days with our kids and get to the night and get 2 hours of sleep. And the next morning would be hell. And I wouldn't want to get up. And I didn't have the strength. And I'm like, I have to anyways. And it was a whole new ball game for me, realizing the importance and the value of actual sleep and rest. And same with my wife. And it got even worse and worse because these 5 things that I just told you guys, how do you recognize rest? It was happening in our life where we started fighting. It'd be 4 o'clock in the morning and I'd be like, why is he crying? Can't you fix that? And we'd yell at each other and she's like, you fix it, it's your turn and all this, and we're trying to figure it out 4 o'clock in the morning because we haven't had any sleep. And we get up the next day and we do it again and there's no rest. And it just got worse and worse. And there is a blessing that came out of it. We have had some very, very difficult conversations and arguments, but in it we have realized, okay, these are some things that we're doing wrong, some long-term issues that we've had that we are dealing with now. But I've never understood the power of rest. And you guys need to find rest in your life. Whether it's every week, every day. Some of you guys are sitting here going, I definitely need that. For some of you women that are seasoned, that have wisdom, maybe you go, I know what that's like. I've been there. So how do you find rest? What is it? For some women, it's just time away. Going to the beach, taking a walk, just time away. Time away from the normal, everyday stuff that you do. The second thing, maybe it's time with your girlfriends. Maybe your family is just, it's falling apart or whatever. The thing is not to step into that and just try harder. It's literally just take a night with your girlfriends, have some wine, and laugh. Like, I'm dead serious. Maybe some of you guys, that's what you need. Maybe for all of you, this is my wife does that occasionally, and I'm like, good, go, do it. You need it, especially with 2 kids now. And with 3, because technically I can act like a kid a lot of times. Most of the time. You saw the video. And the third thing is that you all need time with God. That is where you're going to get your spiritual rest. And for some of you, you come to Women of Faith once a week. That's not enough if that's all it is for you. It's not enough. You need it on a daily basis. You see, it's very interesting that for a lot of, especially the younger women, you spend your life seeking independence. You hear the songs, what's that song? Independent? Or I don't know how it goes. I was going to try. Anyways, yeah, you seek independence, but in reality, the most freeing thing for a woman is understanding that you need to be dependent. Dependent on God, dependent on your husband, dependent on the people in your life, your friends, your family. But you spend most of your life thinking, how do I become more independent? How do I be a stronger woman? How do I be Proverbs 31? And even in Proverbs 31, there's a verse in there that says, and she takes care of her servants. Bet most women don't catch that. She had servants. Do you have servants? I don't think so. She had help. Someone's in here like, I do. I guess maybe servants that come clean your house. I didn't really think of it that way, but anyways. You stop seeking dependence. You need to be dependent. It's like your guys' verse, your Psalm 139, 9 through 10. I'm going to read it. I have it marked right here. Verse 9, if I rise in the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea. Verse 10, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. God wants to hold you and carry the weight for you. He says in him you will find rest, and you need that. All growing up, my mom would sing a song. And I thought for her it was just a very, so like Taylor Swift came out with that new song, Shake It Off. I love that song. I played it like every 2 hours when it first came out. And I'm like, the day's been hard, shake it off, shake it off. Okay, like that's, seriously. And I would do that in my office and just at home in my car, okay? And for my mom, I thought that this song that she had was kind of like that, just, was uplifting for her. And I would say almost every week, I would find her in the living room or in her bedroom with her guitar, because she was a hippie, and she's a good hippie, and she'd be singing this song. And there was occasional times that I would walk in and just watch her, and she would be crying at times, just sobbing, letting everything go. And I, to this day, remember this song, and up until last night, I hadn't visited this song, hadn't looked at the lyrics, didn't even understand it. The last time I heard it, I was living at home, like 12 years ago, or whatever that was, 13 years ago. And my mom, it was actually like 14 years ago, and it was after the night that I came home high. The next day, before she took off with my dad, she was singing this song with her guitar. When I read these lyrics last night, I understood what my mom felt. I understood the weight of thinking she had to do it all on her own, in her family. And my mom, I look at her now and I'm like, she's such a strong woman, because she understood what I'm telling you guys here, that she couldn't do it alone and that she needed to be dependent on God. And if you've heard this song, these are the lyrics. When I started reading this last night, I started bawling. The song is by Leslie Phillips. Some of you women might know this song. And this is what she would sing, and I felt this. I felt the weight of her words, of these words, as my mom would sing them. It says, I open my eyes to the sound of morning news, and I wish for 10 more minutes left to sleep. And as I get into the shower, the thoughts of facing one more day overwhelm me, and I begin to weep. And I've never felt like I've needed your help so bad. While my tears are pushed away now for the sake of morning rush, till the Bible on the table catches my eye. And I read that you are near to the hearts that break with grief. And I realize that I don't have to try to live life myself, because you're ready to help me live. And then my mom would sing this chorus, and in tears, knowing that she just needed some help from someone, and that she was looking to her father to give it to her, she would sing, and every day I look to you to be the strength of my life. You're the hope I hold on to. Be the strength of my life. Be the strength of my life. The strength of my life. Be the strength of my life today. That's how my mom found rest. She would sit in the arms of her father and sing that song. And with all the weight of 4 kids and a husband and just life and the pressures of being a woman on her shoulders, she would let it go. And in tears just sing that. After a night of planning for an anniversary and her son coming home high, thinking she could trust him, she sat down with her guitar and gave it to God and said, God, I need your strength to get through this day. You guys need to find your resting place. Find a place where you can connect with God, not once a week in Women of Faith, but every day. If you don't, it will catch up to you. I'm going to pray for you guys, and I think Kate's going to come up and close this out. Father, I thank you for the women in here. God, for the faith in this room, Lord, that they sit here and they want to learn. God, and they want to go and be women that exemplify Proverbs 31. God, I pray that they see and understand that without you, this life is impossible. That we're going to go through such difficult things in life, God, but they are manageable if we get rest, both physical rest and spiritual rest and emotional rest. God, I pray for the women in here that actually do need that desperately right now. God, that they would find rest in you this morning. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.